wherever there's a process, we're there, and we would always be in demand. That would always be our core capability, to be able to redefine processes and make them more effective and value adding.
Today, I'm excited to welcome Olu Amodeni to the show. Now, Olu, as you'll hear, is from the United Kingdom, and which means he has a much cooler accent than I do. But Olu and I guess, first interacted with one another over LinkedIn. He was quite taken back by our recent podcast episode with Sarah Tilkins, episode 275. And so he reached out to me to thank me for that episode and said it meant a lot to him to hear the dialogue that Sarah and I had. And so I thanked him for that. And then, as I typically do when people message me about the podcast, I asked him if he wanted to come on to the show, and thankfully he agreed, and he came on, and we had a really fun discussion about some topics that we don't often talk about on the show. And in particular, Olu has a phrase he likes to call Lean 2.0, and it's just more about how we could apply the philosophies and tools of Lean to some maybe more sophisticated processes such as robotics and RPA, as we'll talk about in great detail throughout the show. So we go into that in quite a bit of depth, and it was a really interesting conversation and some nice back and forth discussion. So show notes for this episode can be found over at gembapodcast.com. Just look for episode 279. You can also get a full access trial to Gemba Academy, where you can take basically a test drive. That's what the whole trial is for. It's for folks to log in and essentially watch as many videos as you'd like to see all the various learning resources we have, take some quizzes, see how your lean acumen is doing these days. And for that, all you got to do is go over to gembaacademy.com. Okay, enough from me. Let's get to the show. Olu, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. So, hey, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling in from Nottingham in the United Kingdom. It's a little town famous for Robin Hood tales.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't tell if you had English or you were maybe from Tennessee or something like that. I wasn't sure. No, just kidding. No, great accent. So, who's your favorite football team?
Chelsea Football Club.
Okay.
Supported them from very long time.
Yeah.
So yeah, they are my favorite, my number one team, the Chelsea Football Club.
Nice. Now, do you play as well?
Yes, I do. I try and get kickabout at least once a week with some of my friends.
Yeah.
We get on a local stadium and just have a kickabout.
Yeah, I like it. All right, very good. Well, hey, I'm excited to have you onto the show. I know you're a frequent listener to the show, and it's kind of how we, I guess, we crossed paths where you were happy with one of our recent episodes with Sarah, and yeah. So thanks for listening.
Yes, thanks. Sarah's episode was really refreshing and comforting to kind of hear someone's experience who's, when I say kind of in a maturity stage in terms of lean, and to hear how she's built up that experience. It was refreshing to see to hear the challenges. I could identify with quite a number of them. And it was really refreshing. I was kind of buoyed by that to say, like, reach out to Ron. Well done for that, and well done for getting Sarah on board. I do listen to the other more experienced guys, and that's also kind of good. But someone who's kind of in the same experience in the same thing as you are, it's always refreshing to hear from them.
Yeah, love it. Very good. All right. Well, hey, Olu, you know the drill. As you know, we like to begin all of our episodes with our guest sharing a quote. So do you have one?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to take a leaf out of Skip Stewart's book. And this was podcast 269. And Skip took a quote from the Bible. So I'm going to take one too. And it's from 2 Corinthians 12, verse 9. And it talks about my grace is sufficient for you. Although the context might be slightly different, but what I've kind of pulled out from this is that continuous improvement can be challenging for the individual, the consultant, can also be challenging for the team. And the whole concept of my grace is sufficient for you is kind of telling us that within us there is that strength to keep going on. Despite the challenges, we must always continuously improve because we have that innate strength to push on.
That's beautiful. a few days ago, I was chatting with my colleague John Miller, and we were talking about some of the and this is some dirty laundry about Gamba Academy here on the podcast. My business partners' ears are perking up. What the hell is wrong going to say now? And here we're this company teaching Lean, Six Sigma, and all this, and we do a pretty good job, I think, of trying to practice what we preach, but we're not perfect, and so we have lots of opportunity for improvement, even within our own company. And I was talking to John the other day, and I was like, man, this Lean stuff is hard. And he goes, I know, it's so hard.
It is. I have also been, I don't know whether it's to say I've been fortunate, but I've worked in a number of projects that when you walk through the door, the first thing people think is, oh, headcount's going. And a lot of people tend to see Lean as just about cutting the headcount. And that can make it difficult when you're trying to have, a very strong engagement with people, because that there's that kind of feeling that, oh, you're just coming to find out if my work is value adding or not. But it's more about continuous improvement and getting people to that place where they continuously push themselves to continuously improve. And so, yes, I totally agree that Lean can be challenging, but we've got the strength within us to continuously improve.
I love it. All right. So Olu, tell us about your background. Tell us about how you got into this continuous improvement thing, and then definitely tell us what you're up to these days.
Okay. So I kind of stumbled into Lean as where I was working for the local health authority, and there was a project that was going to look at applying Lean principles to waste management, which was interesting in itself. And so I was pulled on the project to see how I could support. And then that's where I kind of got the Lean vibe and really enjoyed the whole idea of looking how waste was generated from doctor surgeries, and how that whole process from when it's created to when it's disposed of, and mapping out the process, and then identifying what was value adding, what was not value adding, and taking out the waste from there. I then moved on to supporting a number of small and medium scale enterprises with adopting Lean. So it was pretty simple, 5S in the factory. How do we bring in 5S? How do we improve productivity using 5S? And just getting them to adopt Lean within their practices. Then I moved on to work with a energy company who one of the big six in the UK, and looking at operational excellence. So this is where Lean took on a more jazzed up theme of operational excellence, and a lot of companies started to look at their internal operations and wanted it to perform at maximum, and operational excellence became the flavor of the day. So I worked with the energy company looking at operational excellence, looking at back office functions and how we can improve back office functions and improve the processes. And then I moved on to working with a big five consulting company, and moved totally away from the assembly line kind of operations to kind of looking at things like procurement. How do we improve our procurement process? We've got this procurement process, someone orders something, and all the way till it gets to us, and how do we improve that and bringing technology into the mix. So I looked at it was for a water company, their procurement process for replacement of some of the equipment, and how to improve that process with technology. And then currently now working with another consulting company, looking at how to improve back office service desk functions. So how do we improve service desk, and how do we improve the support we give to our customers? So that's where I am now, and just applying some Lean and seeing how technology can improve what they're currently doing.
I like it. Very good. Very good. So when we were exchanging some messages before we came on, you had some interesting ideas here, and I've been really, we haven't explored it before this, so I wanted to save it for the podcast so we could just have a genuine conversation. But you bring up some interesting ideas that I'd like to hear more about. I think you're calling maybe a phrase Lean 2.0 or something like this. And tell us a little bit about this and some of your thoughts, and perhaps we could just have a discussion.
Yeah. So lean is about continuous improvement in itself. So it's more about, okay, lean has come to a stage, it's continuously improving processes. The argument is around, should lean continuously improve itself? So us as lean practitioners, it's about improving the lean delivery or the lean service that we're offering. Um, Lean was birthed on the assembly line. That was where it came out from Toyota factory, and it looked a lot at people and operations. Now we're being ushered into the era of robotics and robotics process automation, where we are replacing people with robots. My thinking is that lean should then start to kind of configure itself to measure up to looking at robots now. So we're going to have to start looking at the actions robots are doing. We're going to have to start to look at how do we improve the process that robotics are carrying out. And I also believe that in configuring itself, there's going to be a slight redefinition of certain things. So traditionally, non-value adding activities, we looked at people, we looked at what they were doing in a simplistic form. If someone was doing something that wasn't adding value or what the customer wasn't going to pay for, then we class that as non-value adding activity. And nowadays, we're looking at long non-value adding activities as things that could easily be automated. So if someone has to manually push a paper from point A to point B, and that could be automated, that is now being tagged as non-value adding activity. So it's things like that, and looking at, this is now ushering us into a new era of lean, where we're coming away from the assembly line and we're going into robotics. And so a number of the definitions that we've used, a number of the methodology that we've used might need readapting for this new era that we're going into.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess I've not thought of it that way, but yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely an interesting discussion. I guess my counterpoint would be, if forget, I guess the way I look at value added, non-value added is I try to become the thing, right? But the thing being worked on, whether it's a piece of paper or a piece of metal or a person in a hospital, something like that, right? The item, I don't want to call a person a thing, but you know what I mean? The thing that we're focused on, is value being added to that thing. So to me, I guess it would be, if something's non-value added, for example, pushing a patient across the hospital, right? Because we got to go from one area to the next. To me, this is waste. Now, it doesn't matter if it's a robot pushing an automated conveyor system or whatever, the patient on it, the fact that the patient is moving is still waste. So, so to your point, I think that maybe there's an opportunity to, what we always try to say is, let's make sure that we identify the waste and we remove the waste so we don't automate the waste, because that could be a dangerous, slippery slope where people rely on robotics and things like that. But in essence, they're just
hiding the waste.
Yeah, well, they're finding more efficient ways to do wasteful things, right? No, I think you're right. I mean, robotics can and have obviously go walk into a Toyota factory, right? I mean, there's robots everywhere, right? But I would say they're doing extremely value-added work. I wouldn't see many robots in a Toyota factory doing non-value-added work per se. So, but no, it's a really interesting point that we will need to kind of transition from away from always focused on the work people are doing, and there might be equipment. I mean, it's just like, maybe it's like similar to OEE and things like that when we're looking at equipment and, how available it is, and what kind of quality is a machine producing and, stoppages and things like that. So it's a really interesting topic though.
What would you say would happen to things like TWI job instructions when traditionally they've probably been designed for people to operate machinery? Now it's going to be just for machinery to operate on itself.
Well, in the end, no matter what, unless we get one day perhaps perhaps we're already there. If you listen to some of these conspiracy theorists, they say that, Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy, he's convinced that we're all robots and we're one big AI experiment. I was like, okay, this is going to blow my mind here. I can't, this is too big. But right now, people are still required to do things, right? So now, will the job instruction breakdown will they look differently? Will they be of different things? I think so, because I think people are always going to be needed for something. Now, it might not be screwing the bolt on like it was, but someone's got to program the robot. Someone's got to repair the robot. Someone's got to maintain the robot. And this is where I would see things like JI, JM, JR, just anything continuous improvement related, still being very applicable, because there's never going to be a time, at least I don't want to say never. That's too big. Maybe there will be. Maybe AI will be running the world in the next 100 years or something. Yeah. But at least for right now, people are still going to be required for different jobs. Now, it might be higher level jobs. I just read an article. I guess it's Amazon. Who's going through and retraining a bunch of their workers, right? As the jobs are changing, they say, you know what? Thank you, Mr. and Mrs. such and such, for your service and of this job in the warehouse. But we are, to your point, are automating this or whatever it is. But now we want you to teach you how to code. We want to teach you how to do other jobs, hire, things that take more education than perhaps the person has. But good on Amazon, they're at least trying to make an effort and give that training, right? So so maybe that's what's going to happen, is that the job instruction and things like that I think will still be there and still be needed, but it'll be perhaps of just
a different focus.
A different focus, yeah.
That's really it's in the same kind of thinking I have, that it will come to a time when it will be more about upskilling rather than just changing the process and just removing waste, but there'll be a lot more emphasis on upskilling people so that they can do this new level of work within the operation, a new level of capability that will be required.
Well, and the world seems to move in cycles. So what's really interesting, watching the cord cutting world, right? Everybody's canceling their cable TV, at least here in America. I don't know how it is in the UK, but I'm guessing it's the same. People here are, going to Netflix and to Amazon Prime Video and all these various other ways of watching TV. But now I'm hearing, Netflix's subscribers have just went down, and so, what's going on? And so I'm wondering, eventually will we have a situation where we have this very streamlined, maybe even lean way of viewing TV or your favorite show, but eventually then I gotta have a Netflix, but I love that show on Hulu, and now I love that show on Amazon. I don't own the HBO one. I gotta get that one. Game of Thrones came back, so now I've got 4. So I'm wondering if it's what we're gonna see in the world of robotics and automation. Will there get to a point in 50 years where it's like, oh my gosh, somebody's gonna say, what's amazing is you can get this person, and this person can actually go over there and twist the bolt on. It's amazing. No, the person could twist the bolt on. Yeah, the person could twist the bolt on. And will we get into such a crazy environment of all this automation that it just gets out of control, and we're trying to, I don't know.
The return of the blockbuster.
Something like that, right? I'm be really curious to. It probably won't even happen in our lifetime, but maybe our children or our children's lifetime. What will the world of the assembly line, if you will, look like, or will there even be such a thing? So.
But I also think it's also having an impact in as lean consultants now. You go to apply for a job or as a lean consultant, some of the things they're looking for is your experience with RPA, and there's a lot more emphasis around that, that you have worked with RPA and worked with embedding RPA into existing processes, because there's that great shift. People are moving away from the traditional structure to bringing in RPA. Lean organizations are touting themselves as being able to bring RPA. the question is then what next? If you then become an RPA expert, as RPA lean expert, what's next after that? Being able
Hmm.
to improve the processes within RPA.
Yeah.
What that will look like is, we still have the I mean, I've been on some projects where you traditionally go with your stopwatch, you sit and time the process from point A to point B. Will that still look like the same, within
Yeah.
RPA? Would you have to start to time, one robot doing one process, even though, with AI, robots supposed to be continuously learning and
Yeah.
improve. And how do we start to measure that? And the question is, yeah, takt time might still be relevant, but would some of the metrics still be relevant? Do we need to invent new metrics to kind of, align ourselves to RPA?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think as long as there's a customer, right? There's a person that wants something from us, from our company, from the service that we provide, then and there's a certain amount of time that we as a company can produce that product. Then, to your point, there will always be a takt time, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so then it's just I still see it as a matter of balancing your cycle times, whatever creates your cycle times, whether that's robots, people, a combination of the two. We're still going to have to balance our cycle time to the takt time, right? And I mean, I remember back in my old days at Nokia and Motorola, and we were building these cell phones, and we had these SMT, surface mount technology machines, these that would place the electronic components, on the circuit board, and these machines. I'm sure they're just crazy fast now, but back then, they were oh gosh, I can't remember. It was Fuji was the big brand that we had in one of our factories,
Yeah.
and these machines, they look like a machine gun, right? Going out,
Yeah.
just putting these parts down. And I remember we would study these programs, and the machine itself would try to optimize the placement of the parts on the board, right? But it still wasn't perfect. And if we could shave like a half a second or something like that off of these things, well, it was huge, right? Because it would add up over the course of days and weeks and months and years. It would be a massive productivity improvement. So yeah, I still see wasted motion in robots. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
You go through a factory,
Yeah.
you're like, why is it doing it that way? That's stupid. So until AI completely takes over, right, and learns to minimize, the waste of motion, it's still going to be there. If you're moving apart from point A to point B on some fancy thing, that's still the waste of conveyance. I don't care how automated it is, right? So, I think to your point, we do need to not ignore it, because it's not going away, and to think that it is very foolish. Hey, so let's talk a little bit about maybe some of the projects that you've worked on that I guess are a shift away from a traditional assembly line type of project. What have you worked on?
So I worked with a water company in the UK, and they had a procurement process where you would have a site operator would order for an equipment replacement, and it will go through multiple touch-off and hand-off points before that equipment got to them. And the cost of the whole process, or the cost of the people within the process and the whole process, was really huge. And they wanted us to kind of look at it and say, how can we simplify, take out the waste, take out non-value adding activity, and just make this process as simple as possible. And also what they wanted to bring in was some form of technology to enable the process go quickly and smoothly. So it was looking at, okay, what they were buying and how long it was taking from when that equipment is ordered to when it gets through to delivery. And that was taking sometimes, a month or over a month, because they had to go through so many approval levels before it was finally being approved. A lot of it was down to just trying to make sure that there was no kind of theft in the system. But what I realized from working on that project was I kind of came up with a few telltale signs with processes. So I said the first thing is, if you can't explain a process at a very low level in five to seven steps, then that process is complicated. If it's complicated, it's hiding a lot of waste. So if you met a client and said, okay, tell me your procurement process, and if they can't kind of tell you at that sort of SIPOC level, this is where it starts from and this is where it ends in about 5 to 7 steps, that process is just hiding so much waste.
Yeah.
And so that kind of became like a litmus test to some of our engagements, when they call us in to say, okay, we have this process. Tell me about the process. And if they kind of, okay, it starts from here and then it goes to here and here. And then if it graduates beyond that seventh step, it's just hiding so much waste.
Yeah.
So that kind of became, my mantra in my conversations on my engagements. Tell me about your process. If it's over 7 steps, that's it. And that's just, okay, fine, we need to redesign this straight away. And that's kind of it. And then I've kind of moved on away from that. Looking at a support operations for an ICT firm. They support in the clients with basic ICT support, and they have several lines of support. So they've got a first line, a second line, and a third line. And it's looking at where the waste is within the process. Now, with them, the process was very simple, not a lot of handoffs, but it's then identifying what activities within that process are non-value adding. I guess the challenge for me with these kind of projects is that the push down from the top is always for headcount. So you would have people who understand operational excellence or have a feel for operational excellence, but only see it as a view of, we've got to reduce headcount. And sometimes it's not just about reducing headcount. You go in, you remove the non-value adding activity and you increase the value adding activity. And by increasing the value adding activity, you can, improve the capability of the people, improve the kind of things that they're doing. It's not necessarily about headcount. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of, challenges. One of the challenges I faced in some of my current projects where, people employ you to just, they see lean as, you've got to make this lean mean. And so come in, make it lean, by making it lean, you're getting rid of headcount.
It's sad that, my goodness, this movement of ours is, it's not, it's still relatively new in a grand scheme of the world, but it's not so new that people should be thinking about lean and headcount reduction, but sadly, it's still the case. And I remember, was it James Womack a long time ago said, that's not lean manufacturing, that's mean manufacturing. And it's very true.
I think I need to use that. I need to use that mean manufacturing thing.
Yeah. No, exactly. So, hey, I'm curious to hear as we wrap things up here, Olu, like what's the state of lean in the UK and I don't know if you get around other parts of the world over there and in various parts of Europe and whatnot. But what's the state of lean where you're at?
If I think of it as a maturity curve, I'll say lean is pretty much mature, whereas it's kind of taken on, with, like I mentioned earlier, with the advent of RPA, there's a lot more people, there's a lot more emphasis on lean. Lean is really blossoming under the umbrella of operational excellence. So a lot of people are looking at their operations and they're looking at, how do we improve our operations? Let's bring in lean experts to kind of look at that. So there is lean. There are a lot of people embracing lean, particularly organizations that have some form of assembly line. Organizations that have a process. Any organization that has a process and they have legacy processes. So sometimes organizations have had processes since they've started. They've never reviewed the process. They've got no metrics, and it just makes it ripe for lean. And there are quite a number of organizations like that. The advent of technology is making markets competitive, and because markets are competitive, regardless of the industry, people are looking to lean experts to come in and try and improve their internal operations so they can remain competitive in the market space. So from my own kind of, point of view, I see lean as being mature, but it's constantly growing as a coterie, it's constantly growing as a group, and with, emphasis on operational excellence. And also emphasis on lean experts who can flex into the world of RPA. Mm-hmm.
So, we've talked a lot already about lean and its role in RPA and robotics and various things. But what are your other kind of predictions of the future of lean beyond that? Anything?
Well, but this is not really a prediction. I think I'll come to the prediction. I would hope that one day organizations stop seeing lean as mean and stop seeing it as just a headcount reduction, and see it, as bringing value and more about people and customers, going back to that house of lean and embracing that house of lean even more. But my prediction is that, like I kind of mentioned to you, we will get into this Lean 2.0 phase, where we will, become experts in robotics, and a slight shift away from assembly line as people start to embrace AI more. We will flex into that field, and we will kind of become Lean 2.0. Some of the principles will still be there, because these are the guiding principles. This is the rudder that has guided lean as a movement, and will still be there. But it's just, we'll just kind of start to have different hats. So one of the new hats that that has come up is agile lean, or lean project management. I mean, lean is a form of embodies agile principles, but now organizations are looking for agile lean project managers. So there might be a time when organizations will start to advertise for RPA lean project managers, not just looking at, what is the core, of their principle. And because, again, lean experts, can work across, wherever there's a process, we're there. I can't remember the catchphrase. It was a catchphrase, particularly wherever there's a crime, he's there. Maybe it was Spider-Man. I really can't remember. But so we will be, wherever there's a process, we're there, and we will always be in demand. That would always be our core capability, to be able to redefine processes and make them more effective and value adding. So it will still always be, the world will never grow out of lean experts. It is a challenging field to get into, because not just that you're trying to be evangelical about continuous improvement as an individual, you also have to continuously improve. And this is where things like this podcast and the engagements that we're having with one another, help us to continuously improve. And because of that, we will always remain relevant to the market space.
Yeah. Very good. Very good. Olu, it's been awesome talking with you. I just realized it's 1:38 here in Texas right now. And so that makes it about, what, 7:38?
7:38.
For you on a Friday night, we're recording this, no less. So you have true dedication to our movement, man. So thank you.
Thank you once again for having me.
Yeah. Hey, what's the best way for folks to connect with you?
So I've got a LinkedIn page. So that will be the best way you can contact me.
Spell your name in case people don't go to the show notes page.
Okay, so it's Olu, which is OLU. That's my first name, and last name is Amodeni, which is AMODENI. And so you can connect with me on LinkedIn. And I would love to connect with people who are new in their experience or kind of maturity stage or they're way up there. It'd be nice to connect with people and just continue supporting this movement.
Did you shoot Sarah a note over LinkedIn?
No, I haven't yet.
You need to. So Sarah, if you're listening, you got a fan in Olu. So she's all about networking. I know that.
Yeah,
so.
Definitely. I'll definitely show into it. And I think I also need to kind of connect with Skip Stewart.
Oh yeah, I know he's listening. I know he's listening. He's probably on a treadmill right now. You go faster, Skip. Come on, don't stop. You can do it. Breathe though. Breathe. Keep breathing.
Yeah. I enjoyed his talk on what he's doing in the Baptist.
Oh my gosh, Skip's the best. Oh, he's amazing.
Those 2 episodes were really, really, really refreshing.
Have you listened to any of the older ones with Brandon Brown?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, go back. I'll put him in the show notes now that I mentioned it. But Brandon Brown actually is he works closely with Skip. He's a consultant, and he's done a lot of work with Skip and the team over there at Baptist. And Brandon and Skip talks a lot about Brandon, and in our episodes. But his episodes are really, really great too. I think you'll like them. So he's awesome. So, yeah, very good. Well, again, thank you for coming on. Thanks for all you're doing, and let's stay in touch. Do you ever get over to the States for any conferences or anything like that?
I think I heard the CatCon really late, so this year's gone, but I'll definitely be looking forward to getting on to next year's Catacon.
Yeah, that's a great one. AME obviously is a big one. Yeah. So
I do have it in my plan. I haven't been to the States in a while. I used to come regularly before, but yeah, definitely looking on to next year's Catacon and AME. I think we might have an AME in the UK. I'm not sure. I tried to Google it. I wasn't too sure if it was the same one, but I'll definitely be on to the AME one.
Yeah. Good stuff. Hey, I just realized too, football related. I don't mean to rub it in or anything, but man, the U.S. women, and all that.
Yeah.
I guess when the one, what's her name, the forward does her little cup of tea thing, I'm like, oh yeah, that's classy. That's classy. Way to represent our country.
Well, the U.S. women are very strong in football. It was written for them. I watched the match and said, this is their cup. And I was really happy for them. They really deserve it, and it's doing a lot of good for women football. It's kind of been in the backdrop for so long.
Yeah.
And it's really doing a lot of good, bringing it out to the front and getting people enthused about football across sexes. It's really good stuff.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Well, Olu, it's Friday. Go have some fish and chips or whatever you're gonna do. You probably don't even eat that. That's what first thing I get when I go to England. So, I had a friend of mine who lives there, and he brought me to this little greasy place, and it was like wrapped in this newspaper. Oh my gosh, I still remember. It's like the best thing I've ever eaten in my life.
Chips on a Friday night is fantastic. That's a feel-good food.
Yeah.
Soul food, as the Americans call it.
There you go. Great. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Olu. Have a great night and a good weekend, and appreciate you.
All right. Thanks so much, Ron.
All right. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Gemba Academy podcast. Now, we invite you to take a no-strings-attached, fully functional test drive of GembaAcademy.com. Gain immediate access to more than 1,000 Lean and Six Sigma learning resources, all free of charge, at GembaAcademy.com.